Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto live stream. How you doing? I am Broke Boy Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. Welcome in to everybody in the chat tonight. We got people pouring in already because they're feeling it. We got a PulseChain pump right now. That's right, bitches. For the first time in 2 goddamn years, this ecosystem's pumping right now, and it feels pretty good. We got Scrubhead. Welcome in, my man. DJ and Moonboy, Valiant, Low Key, the Rat. Always love when the Rat shows up. Viper Styles. Appreciate you guys being here. We got a big show for you tonight. RG3 will be dropping by in a bit to talk PulseChain Tour. He'll be by in the 7 o'clock hour to let us know everything that is going on with that. But yeah, PulseChain is taking off. Did you miss it? Or have you been DCAing the whole way through? Because we've had some major events, the supply shock of every asset in the ecosystem here over the last week. It's been absolutely insane. Started about, I think, a day after we went off the air last week. So we're going to get into all the details of that and a whole lot more tonight. Ethereum continues to look like crap, but a little bit of a move up today with some of the rest of the market. So we'll see how that is going. We have a lot to get to tonight, but Ewok, how are you feeling this evening as we, hey, we're in the middle of February and the post-Bitcoin halving year, so things are happening.
Things are looking good. I'm feeling good. I mean, you can definitely feel it. It's in the air. You see it in the charts. You see it in the Twitter spaces and the, just everywhere. You can kind of feel it. People are getting excited. I feel like they're also getting a little irritated with the jeeters, and I've explained to even a couple friends. I was like, man, you got to let them jeet because they're gonna regret it later, selling at a 2x, and they'll have to buy back higher. So let them get out now. It'll move a lot better. So yeah, I mean, it's just part of the whole turnaround process, and it's going well. And you and I were just talking off air how PulseX is almost at parity, so we'll be talking about that too.
Yep, Viper Styles, you called it. We will get on that here in a moment because a lot of what has happened in the past week about the liquidity pools on PulseX not going away, but basically not being worth it right now with the ink that you're receiving and the APY. Ewok and I had some interesting conversations about that over the last week that we'll get into. But yeah, we're going to touch on that in a moment. Let's just look at Bitcoin real quick first. We are moving up a little bit right now. Today was an interesting day. We don't really care all that much about what's going on with the Fed and macroeconomics at this point because there's just too many other bullish things happening. But they did have inflation data come out today, which we never really know. Are these numbers real? What are they really? Are they actually showing a lower or higher number than they want to based on their political incentives? I don't know. But it came in hotter than expected. It was up at 3%. And, it had been in the 2s prior to that. And everybody, of course, is blaming Trump on the first read. I mean, I never take this number seriously, whether it's lower or higher than normal. So who knows what it really is. But they say inflation is at 3%. The market dumped a little bit off that news this morning. And then, because it's meaningless, really, it started to come right back up. And actually, Ethereum's higher than it's been in a few days right now at 2750 or so. We have Bitcoin almost up at 98K. So it's been chilling out in this zone. And we just need Ethereum to start catching up. I mean, we've talked about all the bottom signals over the last few weeks. On last week's show, in an effort to hopefully get ETH to pump, have just said that I give up. I think it sucks and it's not going to do anything this cycle. I'm just praying for 8K. And that's the stance I'm taking to try to get it to move up. So maybe me changing my mind on it will help. But yeah, we have Bitcoin hanging out here. What do you make of where we're at in the cycle with Bitcoin right now? Many people have been comparing this obviously to the 2017 cycle rather than 2021, because we did have a Trump administration then and overall bullish crypto policy. I mean, obviously much more bullish crypto policy now because, I mean, Trump's all in on it. He bought $50 million of ETH today to add to his stack, I saw.
Yeah.
So, yeah, big whales are buying ETH. And I saw one of those mainstream crypto accounts today say something like, hey, everybody, whales are buying ETH. What do they know that we don't know? And it's like, how about the price is low? Don't know. Like, it's not
undervalued.
Secret.
It's undervalued, period.
There's no secret out there. There's no crazy thing coming. It's just that everybody's been buying this Solana crap for the last year and a half, and only Bitcoin and Ethereum is low. That's why they're buying it. So, yeah, what do you make of where we're at as far as Bitcoin's kind of timing this cycle, Ewok, and then how you feel about ETH?
Well, as far as Bitcoin goes, you really need to zoom out to the monthly, I think, and just keep an eye on this candle that we're working on right now. We definitely don't want a red candle to close below the last one. That kind of signifies a really rough spot. As long as it closes above where we're at on the last monthly cycle, I think we'll be okay. Um, it's bouncing around. It is what it is. But this is the monthly, and obviously, you get a lot of green candles here creating an uptrend, a pretty clear trend line. Actually, if you draw the line on here, I mean, it shows where we need to go. And in fact, let's just. I didn't mean to do that, but let's do this. We'll draw one on here and kind of see where we want to go and need to go, just to kind of keep it within that trend and where the scary number is. And it's you're looking down around 78,000. So obviously, the closer we get to this, it'll get tight, and it could just bounce right off of it once it narrows in a little bit. That's another month or two, though. So, but yeah, I mean, we just want to keep the uptrend going, and it's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. Have this monthly candle. We're only halfway through the month. It's only 12 days in. So it is a short month, but I think if that can turn around, it's still on the right trajectory. Now, as far as ETH goes, looking at this on the monthly, actually, let's zoom out, because the daily is showing a completely different story. We've got a really nice candle today. And I think that is exactly what you said earlier. It's undervalued, and people are starting to pick up on that. I think there was a lot of manipulation happening where people are trying to get in. There's combination ETH BTC ETFs out there that are waiting for approval. There's a lot of things out there that are waiting for approval, and I think there's some manipulation, not to mention all the layer 2 stuff that is sucking fees away from ETH, what normally would be. You've got the GWEI at under 1. It's been under 1. I don't know what it is today.
It's been super low. You're right.
But it has been, and we'll talk about that when we probably get to the
under 1. It's at 0.8 right now.
Yeah, so I mean, it's under 1, and if you've got any hex stakes coming up to end, be thankful that it is this low right now, because I do still see this turning around. I think it's going to be just a little delayed, but super strong coming on. Now, what will we get to? We'll still get to 20 grand. Who knows? Yeah, that's the magic question. But as far as the ratio, we did pick up a fair amount today. We went from 2.6 to 2.8, 0.028, I should say. So slow and steady wins the race. Would be too overly concerned, but yeah, this is a definitely a nice looking candle for today, as long as it holds and can start a nice uptrend. Yeah, things are looking good.
And we talked about Ethereum last week. I mean, even if, because it's just been so late to get going this cycle, what if the ratio doesn't get to where, because there's the USD price and there's the versus Bitcoin price. And what if the ratio doesn't get to where everybody wants it to be for this cycle? Well, maybe it necessitates, or we need Bitcoin to get to 300K or 250, 300K or something, and to get Ethereum at 15, 20K. Like maybe that, and that would still not be a great ratio for ETH against Bitcoin. So if that happened, I mean, either way, you're rooting for it to go up in USD value. I mean, obviously, you want it to do better against Bitcoin. Maybe it will next cycle. Maybe it's just suffering really this cycle a lot, with a lot of Vitalik's kind of weird moves and just the Solana craze that we've had so far.
Sure.
But you got to remember, I mean, it's, even though it would not be a good ratio for it to be at only 12, 15K if Bitcoin's at 300K, USD wise, and for the altcoin market, and especially us, because we're very well positioned in what we're in, we're still going to do very well. So a failure by Ethereum against Bitcoin can still be a success for our bags. You know what I mean? So,
and like you said, long term, who knows? I mean, this cycle could have just happened to have been Solana's, the meme coin, and people kind of forgot about Ethereum. But then when you get back to it, they are still, other than PulseChain, because we're just as good with the smart contract platform that Ethereum is. That's kind of went away a little bit. It became the meme cycle a little bit, and it doesn't mean just because one cycle didn't do great, it's not still world changing technology, because it really is. The whole smart contract supercomputer platform, it has definitely made serious advancements as far as crypto goes.
Yes, definitely. And you know what? Actually, well, maybe we could transition to that in a moment. Yeah, we'll get to that after we talk about the Pulse prices. But I didn't send you. We also have RH's tweets directly to Vitalik and talking about Ethereum last week, which I think are
Oh
going to
yeah.
be interesting too. Yeah, I forgot about that, but I just sent those to you. We'll get to that here in a moment.
Right.
But let's look at the Pulse chain prices, because we are moving right now. Things are looking good, and I know, like you brought this up the other day. We had a major pump just 2 nights ago, an amazing green candle after we found out that, and we're going to get to this, that the ink inflation was halved for the second time in
Yeah.
like a 3, 4, 5 day span or something like that. I woke up to Pulse. I mean, it was 4065 or something like that. Everything was pumping hard. And then, it came back down, and now we're on our way back up. And there was a lot of people bitching whenever that pump got sold off and stuff. And it's like, you and I have had this conversation, but I mean, like, Ethereum being $2,700 is part of the problem right now. Like, we do need, not just us. When I say we, I do not mean just Pulse Chain in any way. That's not what I'm talking about. But the altcoin market does need Ethereum to have some kind of success. So as long as it's buried down here, which hopefully won't be for much longer, we are going to see stuff like that, even though there's a lot of amazingly bullish stuff going on with Pulse Chain. But Pulse right now, 4 zeros and a 572. Pulse X was just over the 5 mark, halfway off sack rate, but it just came down a little bit. It is dangerously close to parity, which we're going to get to, but 4 zeros, 492. Incentive token, obviously, that's been the big winner here over the last few days, really. $3.76. That's well over a 2x from probably what we were talking about last week. Probably 2.5x or something like that, because of all these inflation slashing. Hex is at 1.97 cents and eHex at 0.004 right now. So
Where are you getting your prices? I'm looking at the same thing. Did mine not refresh?
maybe it did not. I don't know how it
Oh,
could be so very different, though.
well, mine said over 2 cents, and I just refreshed it. Now it's down to 197.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well, we did
That's
just
fair.
start. I mean, it's not that drastic, but
Yeah.
we did just start coming down a little wee bit here a second ago. But
Yeah.
it's been very volatile the last couple of days. But yeah, what do you make of where we're at? And then, of course, we'll tie this in, of course, to the stuff that's happened over the last week with the supply shock, because we've had it with everything. It started with pump tires.
Yep.
And now we're where we are now. But let's just take a look at the chart first and kind of see what you're seeing with Pulse here. We've seen some bullish moves.
Yeah. I mean, you saw a massive candle that was just basically sold right back down. I think that's one of the reasons. Well, that was just yesterday that people got a little upset, and they're like, why can't you guys just enjoy a run instead of selling it off? Well, there's still traders out there. You forget the sacrifice brought in a whole new set of people that got pretty big bags, and they are trying to play these trades. Eventually, what's going to happen is there's going to be a pump so big that they get left behind. They're going to sell. They're going to think that they're selling on top, but it keeps going. And that's part of the game. And again, I was saying a little earlier, the Jeters are going to be Jeters, and they need to get out to lessen the weight. People are going to be happy when it gets to even sack rate and a little above, and take profits and probably be gone. There's going to be others that are going to hold fast no matter what happens and not sell. But it's all part of the game. It's all part of the cycle. And as you said, things are now becoming very deflationary, where there's ways to, for some coins, lessen the inflation part of it, and for others, the opportunity to burn more of that coin. So, there's all these things at play just started happening. And when it did, you could really see things take off. There's mechanics involved. There's some brains back there, behind the screen, pulling levers and whatnot. So, we're definitely seeing this bullish move, up, down, not quite as low,
Left, right.
up, down, not quite as low. We're going to start
Uh-huh.
seeing this steps again, very healthy. So as long as it continues on this A, B, C, D, E kind of thing, and it'll just continue to do that, This is looking fantastic.
Yeah, and maybe you even want to pull up PulseX too, just to see where we're at. Well, I mean, we could spend time looking at the charts, frankly, all day. I don't know if we want to do it too much, but PulseX is, there you go.
PulseX is definitely looking a lot better.
Yeah, looking crazy right now. And obviously, RH has tweeted out that PulseX versus Pulse ratio chart for a long time, and it's a straight stair step up. And I mean, it's one of those things. It's like the PDI chart. I mean, it's better, frankly, but but similar to the PDI chart, and that it doesn't seem to be an accident. I mean, it is beautiful thing of beauty.
Yep. We're at 0.85 now, 8579.
I mean, that's practically pair. I mean, you might as well be there. And
Might
this
as
is
well.
something, shout out Axis Alive, because I mean, he's been on this show talking about that being a possibility or probability for such a long time that I remember like rolling my eyes about it when he first talked about it. Like, when it was maybe 1 to 2 or something. Not so much because of what the distance was. I just thought that all the things that we've talked about like how many people sacrifice for PulseX versus Pulse, it's the DEX pulses that, that doesn't really work like that on, Uniswap versus ETH. You're never going to see that. But of course, the X factor with PulseX is the buy and burn and everything going on with it as well. So
yeah.
It's, I mean, I think we've probably, I know I have been interested in DCing into it number one above all else. I mean, I've been DCing into all of them, but I mean, that's been the one I've put heaviest bags in over the last, year, really. So,
right.
Yeah. And here we are on the precipice of reaching parity.
Your camera's frozen, by the way.
Oh, no, I did not. I'll fix it, but go ahead. I don't know if you were going to respond to that, or maybe you want to pull up the ink chart too.
Yeah, sure. I can pull up the ink chart. I was going to say, I'm totally with you when Axis first said that. And I think we might have even been at 3-to-1 ratio. Maybe not quite that much. Maybe he didn't quite see it that early, but again, I don't know how early he kind of anticipated that parity, but one thing that I didn't play into account was the buy and burn being as high as it is. We'll look at that in a second, how many tokens have been bought and burned in the last month or so. But yeah, so you're at 3.75 or $3.75 now on the ink side, and that inflation, I mean, you can just see what it did to the candles. It basically got people to remove liquidity, and from there, the inflation went down. So we're not paying near the rewards. For a lot of people with a lot of money, they were just dumping the price of everything. Like they would farm, they would dump, they would farm, they would dump, perma dumpers. And essentially what this has done in 3 different ways that I could think of off the top of my head, pumped out tires, cut out the pulse, cutting the inflation of incentive, got rid of a lot of the staker or the yield farmers that were just sitting there collecting ink and dumping it. And then, we'll talk about this too, but the massive amounts of hex that just got staked, all that inflation on the rolling monthly, rolling weekly, big bags have been slashed. So now there's none of that to dump either. So it's a perfect storm as far as I can see and tell. But as far as PulseX goes, we've burned 1.26 trillion tokens. Not long ago, we had just hit that 1 trillion mark. So, 260 billion PulseX have been burned in the last month, which is crazy. I don't know if you can figure that out off the top of your head, but that's a lot of money. That's millions and millions of dollars worth of PulseX that are gone forever. So, pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we're seeing the response right away in the charts. And it's interesting to think about, like, is some of the reactions just to the news that there has basically been a halving in all these tokens, or not necessarily a halving, but you know what I mean, a supply shock?
Yeah.
Or is it actually because of the supply shock yet? I mean, it might be too recent days to figure that out, but let's let's just break it down, since that's what we're kind of already on, and just review what's happened over the last week, because it's been absolutely insane. So the first thing was Richard tweeted about the ink supply being cut by 10x, which I can't remember. I think I sent you that one. And obviously PulseX and ink started to run first really hard off of the news there. Then, now this was the real surprise. So that happened. It was like right before lunchtime, whatever day that was last week. I want to say like Thursday. And I took myself a midday nap, woke up, and I saw a tweet that all the LPs had been slashed as far as their APY, because you and I have been participating in that PulseX yield farm for a long time now. I mean, I think you probably over a year anyway. And that APY has been as high as 20% in like March of 2024 when we ran up really well, and as low as 8 or so. Well, in recent weeks, it's been 8 to 10%. And all of a sudden I woke up to it being 1 point something. It was like 1%. And then all the stables, which we don't really do the stable pools, obviously, but they were all down to 5, 6, 7% or something like that. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And just like, reacting, realizing I'm still in that pool, because my initial reaction was like, okay, I know the PulseX has been running really hard against Pulse. I know I already have, like, even though it's a little bit of impermanent loss in that farm. And now my APY has been cut to 1%. I don't know if I should be in this. And I went ahead and hurried up and just pulled liquidity. I mean, not that I needed to do it like instantly or anything, but I did. So people, and that was kind of what was happening. Like I saw people on Twitter and things talking, like they were in the liquidity pools, like wondering what to do. And it was a clear sign. I mean, we know now days later, I think, for people to pull their liquidity so we can get the price to move more quickly. Some people didn't want to pull it as quickly. And it's interesting because you go through those machinations in your mind, depending upon what pool you're in. Now, obviously, we don't advocate really the stable pools. We don't do that whatsoever. I don't even want to be in stables in this market, obviously, right now. But even being in the PulseX pool, when you expect both of those to go up, we know that PulseX has run so hard against it that, if you've been in it for any significant period of time, you probably have a little bit of permanent loss, if not a bit more than that. And now the rates get cut to where if PulseX, it seems inevitable now that it's reaching parity. I mean, we're practically there. Now you're not even getting paid incentive nearly. I mean, you are, and it just doubled the incentive token in price, but your APY is only 1%. So you're like, whoa, I might actually get some real impermanent loss here with this. So what did you make of it kind of like when the news happened, Ewok? And obviously I know whatever you want to get into our personal conversations about what to do with liquidity the last couple of days, you can, but I did pull mine right away, and I'm glad I did. But what do you make of that?
Well, you basically said it first. Thanks, Nico, for the $5 Canadian. We appreciate it. Just wanted to shout you out there real quick.
Shout out, Nico. Thank you.
So I was hesitant. To pull it because I had gotten into the liquidity pool when it was probably 3 to 1. Then at like 2.6 or 2.5, I added more. So just to even it out a little bit, I was very hesitant because I had lost quite a bit of PulseX, gained a considerable amount of Pulse. I'm going to be honest with you. I made up with it probably how much I lost with what I made. But I was honestly ready to round trip it and wait to see if those ratios ever got back to anything close before I was going to pull it. And then, you're like, man, but you're not getting anything. And so it took me a little bit of time to kind of concede that it was probably the right thing to do. I ran some math. How many Pulse did I make? If I just trade those back, will I get back to the original amount of PulseX that I had? And I did. I got really, really close and have been gaining incentive this whole time and haven't really sold a whole lot of that either. I've traded some of that into other tokens here and there and used it to kind of balance things out. A couple times I did buy some of the PulseX that I had lost back. But yeah, I finally conceded after I had to rerun the math and figure out that I wasn't as bad as I thought I was. Decided that was the best thing to do. Now, when that gets done, obviously with less liquidity becomes the ease that we can really pump this thing. The heavier the chain is, obviously the more capital it takes to lift the prices. But you know, when you remove the incentive for people to add liquidity and they pull it out, well, things can run a lot harder. They can also fall a lot harder too. So, you know, keep that in mind when you see the Jeters jeting that we keep talking about. It is going to fall pretty hard, pretty quick, but it's easy to go back up. And I think with the amount of inflow that I'm seeing with new people to the community, new things going on, there's always somebody new that says, "Hey, I tried to razz these guys in Twitter, and I got welcomed with open arms, and they're a pretty damn cool community." So I've been seeing more and more of that from random people that have 25, 30,000 followers. Pretty awesome. So you know, it's just that it's that time of year. It's that time of, or not that time of the cycle anyway. Right. So that, you know, it's just, yeah, either way. To back to what you were saying is, yes, it took me a hot minute to understand and be willing to, you know, get out of that position, but it was easily fixed just by selling some of what I gained back to the other token. And that's the beauty of that pair is if it would have been with a stable, you would have been nowhere near doing that. You would have lost a lot of your token and not had anywhere near the USD or the DAI or the Tether to make up for it. So because they both moved together, a lot of times, whether one was faster than the other or not, they were still both going up. So that makes the world of difference when you're in a farm like that. So
yeah, the stable pools, you really would have been up shit's creek, but I mean, you probably already would have been anyway, frankly, if you were in them for any significant period of time. But no, it makes sense. I understand you needing to let the dust settle for a few days to really figure it out. What my point to you was the whole time wasn't so much like how much, even if it wasn't that much, impermanent loss you may have already experienced. It was like, well, now you definitely are getting some, like, going forward with, like, you know, not knowing how long these rates are going to be this low. I don't think it's going to be forever or anything, but if PulseX continues to run on Pulse and maybe even exceed it with you having like a 1% APY, you know, that doesn't seem great, even though Inc has over doubled in the last week. I mean, I understand that too. These things are not easy to figure out.
Sure.
But you know, the main point is, I think it was I don't know what the hell is up with this camera tonight. I'll figure it out when I can. But the clear sign is that I think RH, you know, and the pools, it's like we want things to move, and it's a signal, I think, to people to pull liquidity in the meantime, you know.
Yeah, I think that was the gist of it anyway, was you're not getting anything, so you might as well remove your liquidity. I think that was the sign. You know, that's the bottom line.
Whether Stone Cold said so,
yeah, exactly. So
so let me see where I was there while I'm fiddling with this stupid ass camera at the same time. So yeah, most people I think did pull liquidity there. So that was the first thing that we got, was the slashing of the Inc, and then so people, you know, pull their pulls and stuff like that, and then just a couple of days later, just the other night, we get that Inc was halved for a second time already, which made the price, of course, pump again. So let me just look at my notes here. So yeah, we had that happen again. Yeah, and again, I pulled my liquidity, you pulled your liquidity. I do think for anybody that is still wondering what to do there, if you were in the PulseX farm, I mean, that's what we did. We're not going to recommend for you what to do, but if I'm only earning that much APY, I don't really want it to be in there. So, so yeah, we have that double with Inc. We've seen the Inc price fly up, which has been amazing. People are pulling their liquidity. Then, so the other thing that happens, of course, is the Hex staking long term that we're seeing. I'm frozen again, Jesus. From the OA wallet. And I did see a question earlier that we'll get to about PDAI regarding the Hex states. But so the OA now does 15-year stakes, and at the time I wrote this, it was 90% of eHex and PHex. Now it's at 95% of Hex is staked from the OA. So we are seeing this is an interesting thing. Like, I don't think a lot of people were speculating something like this could happen. And obviously our friend Dip Catcher for a long time has been talking about how Hex has an inflation problem and the inflation is too high. It's apparently somebody agreed with him, and that's what we've seen as a result of this, which is really interesting. And again, there's been a lot of things people have speculated about that may or may not happen by people that want this ecosystem to do well. And I didn't really see this get brought up very much, as like a trick up the sleeve of anybody to make T-shares much more rare, much more scarce. We're seeing, the current rates, and it may have it right there. I mean, like the payout per T-share has gone down to what, like 2 hex? And we were making what, 7 or 8, maybe, I want to say, before all this started. So yeah, well, we've seen that come way down, and I have so many points on this, but just to get your take on it right away, Ewok. So it wasn't just 15-year stakes. That's what at first it was just like these big short-term stakes. We saw like week-long gigantic stakes. Then all of a sudden, tons of 5.555s start coming in. Stakes tapered all kinds of lengths, and just killing the supply of T-shares and hex for people. That it's going to be harder to get your T-shares and to get your yield. And it's interesting, and we'll get to this too, but there's people that have differing views of this. I mean, like overall, I think the view should be positive, that it is more scarce, and usually that helps make price go up. But some people are like, well, now I'm not getting long-term hex yield. So what do you make of, first off, just the idea of the OA to do this? Because it's not something I saw coming.
There's a couple things that you could kind of think about. The first one that I thought was, well, there goes the big argument against hex, is that the OA could always dump on my head. Well, not anymore. That's a huge one. It's locked up there, and at least not for 7 years, because that's when they would actually able to be the emergency unstake would be able to at least get back the principal. So there's that argument that goes out the window. The OA can't dump coins, nor do they own any, because remember, when you stake, the hex gets burned. You get T-shares back instead. So also the supply, the total supply, the circulating supply thing goes out the window as well. So your metrics for ranking sites and things like that becomes much more realistic with an actual circulating supply by the users. So there's that. There's multiple things. What if Richard may have gotten some bad news? We hate to think about this, but the courts are saying, he owns all of this, or the OA owns all of this. What if there's something along those lines? So again, it's now burned. It's in nobody's hands. There is no hex. So you start to think about all these different scenarios of what's going on. What was the play? Was it really just to get the inflation down so that people couldn't do rolling stakes? And I honestly think it was more targeted to that.
Right.
However, when that was at first, when I saw the 7-day stakes, I figured it would be a rolling stake to kind of monitor how much of a payout people are getting. Let's cut that down a little bit. And then all of a sudden there's all these 5.555s that came out, and now there is no adjusting. There's really no adjusting that you could do other than to emergency end stake them and burn them forever. Now, I know the goal was to eventually kind of have it play out like Satoshi, right? When Bitcoin first started, Satoshi mined 1 million coins. There was 1 million coins out there that were his. Then it was opened up to everybody else. Eventually, Satoshi's wallet got, evened out with inflation by everybody else. It wasn't as big of a part of a problem later down the road. This was kind of supposed to be a very similar scenario where eventually the OA would kind of be overtaken by everybody else, and it wouldn't hold as much of a supply as it did at the beginning. The problem was probably the half payouts. When any kind of penalty, half of those kept going to the OA. So I don't think it was the model wasn't growing fast enough. Probably not enough new people to absorb the inflation that was happening by these short stakers. So all in all, it's a good thing. It's going to make people either stake now and get what they can, or they're just going to hold it liquid. I mean, those are really the only two options, because that 38% average rate
Right.
has gone away, and I
That's
don't
out
know
the
if they've
window.
yeah, I don't know if they've changed that image on the page anymore, but I would hope so, or I hope it gets done soon, because it is kind of false advertisement at this point, and it will be for at least 15 years. Um,
Still says 38 for now. That's a good shout out, though. Yeah, good call.
yeah, I think that needs to be fixed, and word it a different way, possibly. As the price goes up, those T shares that you're getting, the 2 or 3 per T share, it could make people want to get the T shares now while they can, before these first couple end. Because I can tell you one thing: the share rate is about to jump. It's probably going to go probably about 5,000 hex per T share
Mhm.
after this first round of short stakes are ended. So
Yeah.
if you're wanting T shares, there is no time like the present to try and get them before the rate goes up, or you're going to get a lot less for the same amount.
Yeah. Where was the question earlier? Shit, I started and now I can't find it. It was about PDI and relate. Well, I mean, it's easy to summarize. Here it is. Was it Viper Styles? Yeah.
This one,
Oh,
oh,
go ahead. Ewok, could OA be stacking the to increase the bags because it will collateralize PDI with Maker, but wants to keep bags of Hex to protect the price in the future, like what the OA was for? So another way just to summarize this, like a lot of people have been panicking, like, what does this mean for PDI? Like Hex had to collateralize PDI. Now it's not going to happen. And I think what it is for a lot of like anti-PDI trolls to come out and just pick something, like people who have always kind of shit on it and been against it. To pretend that this might have something to do with it, but not even all the hex stakes are long enough where that can't be done, first off, and it doesn't need to be collateralized just with hex. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, and what do you say to Viper Styles here?
well, I've brought this up in the past. I don't think the intention was, if there was an intention, I don't think it was ever to fully collateralize it with just hex.
Mhm.
I do believe hex incentive, pulse x, pulse chain, and now maybe even most and pump. Who knows what all kinds of collateral, but I don't think you ever want to collateralize a token with just one type.
Right.
So either way, as a as a staked as a stake, there is no way to take out a loan once the stake has been made in the contract. Um, if it were made in the Hedron contract, that would be different, where you could collateralize it for certain things. You could sell it for the ICO, so they do different things. That goes way down the rabbit hole. However, now there is really, unless you create another contract, there's really no way to collateralize T shares from stakes within the original contract. I know there are some other protocols out there that kind of do it. I don't know a whole lot about them, but as far as I know, I don't think this has anything to do with the PDI as much as it does to chop the inflation down. He said it himself, inflation can ruin currencies. Originally, the thing he was preaching was, well, Bitcoin did its best when the inflation was the highest, and there's also a lot more users that are buying Bitcoin, right? I mean, there are millions and millions and millions of users purchasing that kind of inflation every day. Even though
Yeah.
there has been halvings every 4 years, halvings. So I just think this has everything to do with, let's stop the people from making the chain bleed for a little bit, and see how that shakes out. Let's get some more people that are staking, because now this isn't enough. Let's hope they stake more. Let's hope they stake longer, and the price can actually have a chance to run a little bit.
Well said. My question to you is, how long do you think, and you kind of touched on this, like how long do you think this has been planned by the OA, or like that you know, maybe it was known that this could always be a possibility, like if you needed to do something like this. And I
Yeah.
wonder how much of it is like, you know, I have this trick up my sleeve in case it ever needs to be used. But is it also just like current market conditions? Like you just alluded to the fact that we know we have a whole bunch of short stakers right now that are just dumping the yield like monthly and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But not just that, not just like what's happening in our ecosystem, but also this all happened right after RH went on that tangent about like Vitalik and ETH being dog shit and trying to be kumbaya friends with everybody and not doing anything for themselves. And
Right.
L2's like extracting all this value from them and everything. Vitalik selling on everybody's heads. Um, how much do you think is also just due to that? That is like, you know what? We're going to make something happen in this ecosystem since we're waiting around for Ethereum, you know, which has just been crap the entire cycle so far. Which,
Well,
again, like I said at the beginning, I think we definitely need Ethereum, obviously, to do well to get
sure.
to certain heights. Everybody in the altcoin space does. But go ahead. Yeah. I mean, I think RH is saying like Ethereum shit or get off the pot. And like, what can we do for this ecosystem right now?
Right. And, I'll put this up in the background. People can kind of read it as we talk. But, this is the second time this has happened. A lot of people maybe weren't around for Big Payday. Everybody thought they were going to get all these tokens during Big Payday. And the OA stepped in and made a bunch of stakes and lessened it by like 2/3, I think, of what people initially thought they were going to be getting, because there were so many short stakes that were just staked for that day to gain a bunch of yield in order to dump it. Well, I mean, as long as we've had Hex, we've had the OA, and the OA has always been benevolent. It's always been a benevolent protector of the ecosystem. So I think people need to kind of step back and say, well, he ruined the yield. Well, I think there's more at play here. There's other reasons we either may know about, may have speculated on, but there is definitely more at play. And the OA only steps in really to protect what's happening. It was a good thing then. People hated it. They didn't like it. They thought they were robbed of it, but that was because their intention was to dump it. So, when it's almost like the government, when they get caught stealing, the one screaming foul, the largest or the loudest, are the ones taking the most money. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to look at this chain the same way. The people that are upset that the yield has disappeared are the ones that were dumping it, or had planned to dump it, or whatever it may be. So, just I think it was another benevolent move the second time that the OA has had to step in and right the ship a little bit and get things headed in the right direction. And you're right. We obviously can't rely on Ethereum to we're going to make our own bull market. And I think that was kind of the statement saying, we're done waiting for you. We're going to do this ourselves. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Here are the things that you can do to make things better. And I think he's kind of just giving everybody a blueprint on how to make their chain better and make the prices run. So
Really grabbing the old bull by the horns and getting it going. And you just alluded to this too, and I think we do have to touch on it. So I know, well, I won't get into that, but Kyle Cruz, okay, we'll use his tweet as a vehicle. So there's many people out there that are there. That was fast. Talking about like, oh, this is a negative thing. The hex inflation, like nobody's going to want to stake long term anymore and things like that. So let's take a look at a contrasting view. And this isn't like unique to him. I mean, we've seen other people saying this and things like that as well. He says, hey, PulseChain, before celebrating the OA staking and killing yield, don't forget that there is still an estimated 232 trillion, that an estimated 200 is hex yield to be paid out.
That's billion.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Yeah, over the next 15 years, I personally think the OA staking did more damage than good. Why? The OA was supposed to be getting diluted over time. The OA decided it's going to cut rates whenever it wants. Is the exact same as the contract having admin keys. I don't know if I'd say that's the exact same. It has essentially made staking pointless, which was the beauty of Hex to begin with. I don't agree with that either. The problem is buyers, simple as that. We are still going to have 232 billion in assumed sell pressure spread out over the next 15 years. That is essentially 50% of the total supply, worth 3.7 billion at today's prices. Is that the whole thing? I don't know if so yeah, go ahead and respond to that, because and he's not the only one. Again, we've seen other people say similar things out there, maybe not with like breaking the numbers down and things like that. I do one thing I will say, like with all this supply shock stuff, while it is unbelievably bullish with every token I think in the ecosystem, we do still need like people to come in, obviously. And obviously you think that's going to happen. I think this is a huge catalyst, but people are going to come in. But yeah, how do you respond to this though?
Well, first of all, this is a completely fabricated thought. I'm not a big fan of either way, but 232 billion hex paid out over the next 15 years. Well, first of all of the inflation is set to come out at a certain time, if and only if people honor what they said they were going to do. They said they were going to lock it up for 15 years. They lock it up for 15 years. They end the stake at that time. If by any chance the price of hex goes crazy and they emergency end stake it at 7 years, well, half of that yield just got thrown out to all the other stakers. That could be at that point 15 years, right? So a lot of this is going to be kicked down the road for so long that we will never see half of this. I would be my guess. So you may have 100 billion out there that people get, and people, over the next 15 years. But again, over half of this, I would almost be willing to bet large sums of money that it's going to be thrown out to people that continue to stake long term, and a lot of it will never see the light of day. Whether people, lose their keys, whether they pass on, and no one has access to it anymore. There's going to be so many things where a lot of this just disappears. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, yes, the OA is supposed to get diluted, and there's a reason why this was done, and it was because of people, and maybe he's one of them. Maybe he was a dumper of the tokens. Like I said, the people that yell the loudest are usually the ones that are doing what's wrong with it, and they get upset. So just my thoughts. Again, a lot of this stuff would never see the light of day, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. Those are kind of imaginary scenarios that I don't think you can just with a broad brush paint and say that that's what's going to happen. Yeah, I understand the frustration with like some of the long-term yield and things like that, but I do think no matter what, I mean, you are making the asset more scarce. And not only that, but we are seeing, I just sent you a DM now, these 7-day stakes are coming due now. So I just saw the Hex Alerts tweeted one of those big 7 days just came due tonight, actually. So it is going to be interesting. We'll see what happens with those short-term ones that we've seen from that wallet. What happens with those next? Yeah, there you go. I assume that was one of them with the size of it. So, and it being 7 days. So we're going to see a lot of those coming to an end. And do you have any guesses as to what may happen there? I mean, do you think these will continue to be rolling and maybe just like checking to see what ETH is doing over time and continue rolling them, or what may happen here?
Yeah, I think as we'll see them kind of roll over as needed, I think, to maintain whatever. I mean, I think you're going to try to find a happy medium with it. You may, if the idea was to cut it from 7 down to 3.5, well, you might not see all of this get restaked. We know that the OA has never sold, so there's another 60 million hex that goes in that is gone pretty much forever, or not going to be dumped. So that's not a bad thing. I do think they'll kind of adjust it though, as to try and maybe get it back to about half as a halvening. Per se, so go from 7 to 3.5 and try and keep it there. So just my thought. I have no idea what they'll do. I wish I had that kind of playbook to know them well enough, but I don't. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on it. But my initial thought was they're probably going to try to have it, at least take it from 8 to 4, 7 to 3.5, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it will be good to continue to follow. And the last point of this, and maybe we can even look at the charts of it real quick, but it's no secret that Icosa is something that's been huge leverage on Hex. And we've seen, Hedron and Icosa, obviously head down over the last couple of years, even more than Hex, because they are derivatives of Hex created by Alex McWhorter. Now, Hedron's gone down far worse than Icosa, because Icosa is more tied to the actual T-share. So now seeing this and the scarcity of Hex, the scarcity of the Hex T-share, Icosa has been shooting up big time. And it's a good reminder, and we've talked about it. You can find videos that we've talked about for the last year and a half, 2 years on here, about Icosa being a good buy, checking out that chart. We definitely both have bags of it. I know Ewok, you probably have a decent amount just from the yield. And then I've done lots of market buys and things like that. But you can see, I mean, eHex and Icosa, I guess, and regular Icosa, which any Icosa I still had on Ethereum, I bridged over to PulseChain a long time ago. I didn't want to keep worrying about earning yield with it on Ethereum, with how the fees are probably going to be just to end stake stuff at some point. So I was like, well, what the hell? I just moved this stuff over onto the better chain with cheaper prices and continue to yield on the Pulse versions of them both. But yeah, look at what Icosa has done just off of this news, and it just might be a good time to reiterate to people. I mean, if maybe you are somebody that's getting into this ecosystem a little bit late, which we know that people are, you mentioned it earlier, there's tons of people on Twitter that have just started engaging in this ecosystem. I think it's a good reminder that there are good derivatives that you don't have to do meme plays and stuff like that if you don't want to, because I understand some people like aren't into memes, want something that they think will have staying power. Well, I definitely think Icosa does. There's a lot of game theory here, and outside of Hex and things tied to it, it probably is the best token dealing with Hex, right? I mean, I can't think of something that would be better.
Yeah, both Hedron and Icosa. Icosa is going to be a little more valuable because they're harder to get. Hedron has been minting, and you mint it daily. The only way to get Icosa, well, there's two ways to get Icosa, and one is by staking your Hedron and locking that up. You get Icosa as yield. The other is to collateralize a Hex stake on the Hedron platform, sell it to the platform in the auction, and you are paid with Icosa. Now, when the price is good enough, there are ways to kind of play that feedback loop. For those of you who are a little more advanced, you can kind of do it over and over and over again and make out okay. As long as the T-share rate is down there. That could be another problem here with these rolling stakes as well, is that may not be an option soon either. So keep that in mind. And, again, there's always ways and loopholes out there where you can do things and arbitrage them over and over and over again and make some money. It is time consuming. Not sure what the profit margin is on each time you do it. But some of them can be quite profitable. It take a couple hours, but you may make $1,000 or so. So something to think about.
Yeah, but certainly, I mean, Icosa is one of the best things you could buy and leverage on Hex, I would say. Probably the best. I know there's some other things.
12 cents right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's after it's run up. I mean, I think we've got it as low as 3. There's been a lot of support levels that we bought it at over the last couple of years here. So I think it will really take off hard when Hex starts to go harder. So,
well, you look, and it's tripled in price in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. So,
yeah,
3x in 8 days.
That's just kind of a taste. I mean, like, as things start to get moving here, and again, some of these price increases in this ecosystem might just be the reaction to the supply shock, not the actual effects of the supply shock yet. That's right. What we're still really waiting for, because when people start to bridge in, and these bigger accounts that are tweeting about and engaging with Pulse every day, like Charles Hoskinson, when they start to bridge in, to buy the real ADA on Pulse, I mean, yeah, you're going to have some issues. Yeah,
for sure.
Maybe I should make sure to note that was just sarcasm right there, so we don't get sued or something like that. But yeah,
let's talk about that till RG gets here.
Okay, all right, we'll talk about that. RG3 should be here in a moment, but yeah, so The Charles Hoskinson in relation to PulseChain thing has continued to get weird. I don't know that it was well. Okay, so I think he saw that there's an ADA on PulseChain, and I think Shill Gates has been tweeting about it. I mean, I know obviously a lot of people have. That's what people are going to do. It's crypto. And Shill Gates obviously had that shouting match. Well, he wasn't really shouting or anything, but he actually went up on stage in a Spaces, yeah, and was. I don't know what he's really apologizing about, but just that there are people I wouldn't have apologized, but that there are people within PulseChain that, can be a little bombastic and in your face. And, and then Charles took that to just tear down Richard Hart even more. I mean, he just was like, well, I hear that you're apologizing. I thank you for that. But here's why I hate Richard Hart and your whole community, and just continue to go on about that and misrepresent everything that's going on with it. I mean, he personally very much has distaste for Richard Hart. He doesn't like him. He talks about the way, obviously he just saw the outrage marketing and thinks that that's who he is, and he hates him for it and all these different things. And borders on slanderous stuff actually about PulseChain. But Charles just making this worse for himself at this point. He continues to talk about it. He has a hard on for this ecosystem. And I don't think the cease and desist letter is real. I don't know. Okay. I don't know if Charles really said. I also saw a tweet that looked like he said to Shill Gates, I'll be contacting my attorneys or whatever. I don't know if that was real either. So you never know what you're seeing anymore these days. But I know that he's still mixing it up with PulseChain people because I heard it. I watched it on that Spaces. Yeah. So yeah, what do you make of it? I mean, it's more free advertising for us, and if he is butthurt over the ADA on PulseChain thing, I mean, you know, here's what I said to you the other day. What can tell us everything we need to know about Cardano being irrelevant right now? The fact that he is so pissed off about an ADA copy on PulseChain. If your chain was really that substantial and people were really flocking to it, who would give a fuck about it? That wouldn't be an issue,
Yep. And what's funny is what I just said a little bit ago of the new people that are coming over and trying to troll the community and then getting welcomed in, and they're now having fun. A lot of those guys are coming from the ADA community. It's kind of funny. So yes, there is some resentment there. There's a lot of people that that suspect that Charles had something to do with the case against Richard. Maybe he was kind of behind it in one way or another to take the heat off of his friends. And I find that very ironic that he supports CZ even though he was arrested, and there was a lot of things that happened that were illegal. Guy spent time in jail, but he was set up, but they're friends and he knows him well enough to know that that wasn't real. However, he can't even fathom the idea that Richard is in possibly the same boat where he's been set up, or he's kind of being railroaded into it. The guy goes in and says we're a cult, and after Shill Gates kind of apologized and said, listen, this is why we've been attacked. We've been ever since this thing launched, we've been, abused by everybody that just hates Richard. Whether the coins have done great things, yes, they pulled back, but so did everything else. Trying to kind of make it right, I guess. But after that, I would have basically just gave him the big FU and, take him, and I think he kind of did that. He's like,
Shill Gates pretty much did publicly on Twitter very hard.
Now I'm not even apologizing to you. I want to say big, either way. So, I think we live rent free in his head now.
Yeah.
It just gives more reason to want to pump this token on PulseChain and surpass it. I think it's like 200x away. I haven't looked at it within the last few days, but not far off anyway. It wouldn't take a whole lot of, because I don't think there's a whole lot of liquidity in there. We could easily get it to the price and surpass it, I think. So
yeah.
But yeah, we just, like I said, we live rent free, and it is a shame because he's more worried about this than I see him talking about his own stuff or whatever's going on there, or out hunting, doing whatever retreat he's at, or hunting. He was hunting buffalo or something like that. The last I had seen.
Yeah, he's out in Montana, I think, right?
Yeah.
Or Wyoming, I forget.
One of those two.
I was confused as to. But yeah, it's honestly kind of unfortunate. Yeah, it's very odd that he's letting it go to his head this badly. And I think it is just because that there's just not a lot of relevancy with Cardano. Otherwise, why would you be so pissed off about some obviously clearly fake bullshit token when you have all this other stuff going for you supposedly, and the political stuff that he's been chosen for and things like that. And he's cozied up with the Ripple people whenever he needed it and stuff. It's just like, when does Charles need something? That kind of seems like what the trend has been with him, unfortunately. So, if you are a Cardano,
he's the last person I want to see in politics because of obviously how unfairly he treats people without evidence. Mm-hmm. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just judging books by its covers and flying off the handle about it. Yeah. And if you are a Cardano person that maybe is catching this later on or something like that, I mean, like, we obviously welcome you here. We've really never had anything to say about Cardano whatsoever. It's just been that whenever Hoskinson has been prompted, and, maybe by somebody that wasn't the most savory person on earth or whatever from the PulseChain community, but when he's been prompted about Richard Hart, he has spoken out of turn. Like, he does, and it may just be that he doesn't know what he's talking about and isn't educated on what's going on, but then don't talk about it then. You know what I mean? Wow. Why continue to go on about it, especially when you could actually be saying lies. Like, you'd literally be lying about what you're talking about and spreading stuff that isn't actually true. So yeah,
he thinks he's intelligent. Well, he is intelligent. The problem is he thinks he knows everything, but he doesn't like the fact of somebody wearing a Louis Vuitton or tracksuit or Gucci tracksuit or whatever it was, and not realizing that it was all marketing. He didn't like it. Well, a lot of the community didn't like it, but we still don't think that he's done a lot of the things that he's being accused of. And the majority of it is only civil cases. So until this whole red notice thing goes away, or until the SEC lawsuit goes away, and then the other one can be dealt with, this is where we're at. So
yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. There will be a time where Charles does need something and may ironically come knocking, So, it's weird to see. And it's also weird that he equates, like, being dumb with wearing those clothing, supposedly, or something. Like, and he starts every sentence with, like, I've been in this industry now for 15 years and what I can tell you. And it's just like, come on, man. It's just so condescending every single time. But well, RG3 has the link, I'm assuming, correct?
You know what?
No, boy.
I don't know that I sent it to him.
Okay. Yeah. Might have some messages from somebody there. I don't know.
I don't have any messages from anybody. And
well, if you want to do that, I'll
do that.
am going to say that you can now, everybody is free to make fun of me all you want to. I was wrong about the Pump.Tires Twitter account that I thought clearly seemed like it was RH. I think we pretty much, there's no way to ever totally prove something, but I don't think that it is at this point. It's probably safe to assume that it's not, obviously. It was really uncanny, though. I think they did a good job of faking it, whether they were using some kind of AI or something like that, which I think is probably true. And I wasn't the only one duped, so I don't want to make excuses, but a lot of decentralized me was out there. There was a 48-hour period where Sami thought that it was too. A lot of people eventually were duped by it, and they were definitely copying Richard speak very, very well on that account. So, Ewok was right. Hashtag Ewok was right. Believe all Ewoks. And, if you want to unshare your screen so they don't see your personal DMs or something there, you might want to. But yeah, I was wrong about the Pump.Tires account. So sorry for everybody for that. But BB was wrong. That's right. But yeah, it's been a crazy last week. Speaking of the Pump Tires thing, it seems so in the distance at this point now. there was I wanted to get to this comment. If we can maybe hit this before RG shows up.
Sure.
Somebody was talking about
let's look at that in the background while we're talking.
Look at that. Yeah, that's sweet. Somebody was talking about the pump token and the most wanted token. Okay, so Fugly Googly. Do you guys think pump or wanted will outperform Hex, Pulse, Pulse X? Will it be worthwhile to allocate some capital to the memes, or would it be better to stick with the core coin? So, I mean, this is to each their own, obviously. Sami always talks about like the 90% core, 10% lottery allocation. I personally, with those two tokens and them being on the casino portion of memes, I wouldn't be comfortable saying anything. I mean, usually a meme that has staying power would do better than some of the core tokens. But what has staying power? Like, which ones are going to do it? Like, I'm very confident, like Pika on PulseChain, which I'm not saying necessarily to buy it now, although I think it's on a discount. I got that when it was really low. There's a lot of other ones that, some of the Tangang ones back in the day, if you got into cheap prices, obviously PDI is not really a meme, but that and Teddy Bear and stuff. But I mean, you've missed the moves on some of those. So I'm not comfortable saying that anything on Pump.Tires would do way better than the core coins, because remember, you're playing in like the Solana Pump Fun casino. Now, this is better, obviously. I'm not saying it is Pump Fun, but it is a platform for people to just create tokens out of thin air. And it is nice because they're locked to the main token, and those tokens get locked away. You're not, it's not with stable coins, it's with the native token Pulse, and it's burning Pulse. But in terms of will they do far better than the cores, I'll just tell you, if this answers your question, I have not bought those tokens. I have bought a lot of other memes and stuff on PulseChain, but these also just launched here in 2025 on that platform, and they haven't been around, for a while. So I bought a lot of the other memes last year on dips and stuff like that. So we'll see. I'm not advocating for or against it. I think those two are probably like the two coins one would want to buy from that ecosystem. Obviously, I think most is definitely, that seems like a good meme to me. I mean, like the Interpol pick and all that. So yeah, we got RG in the house though. So I hope that answers your question. There he is. What up?
Welcome in, buddy. Sorry, man.
What's happening, guys? How you doing?
Doing good, man.
Yeah, man. It's been a minute, man.
Been a hot minute, man. How you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing great. I'm out here in Portugal, enjoying my time and just loving what I'm seeing. Everything's going crazy. Yeah. Crypto's on fire. It's awesome, man.
How you doing some surfing?
Yeah, man. The surf was good the last week here. My apartment's right on the beach, and the waves were just freaking tasty as hell when I got here, and it was really nice. And it rained the last couple of days, so haven't been in the water day before yesterday. But
nice.
Now I'm kind of just chilling. Got to go to Nazaré and see some monster waves.
Nice.
It was like 35 footers out there.
Wow.
Watching those guys surf. It was incredible. So yeah, man, having a good time. Kind of, it's cool being here, but I'm away from my crypto and it's driving me nuts.
I hear you.
You got to keep your finger on the pulse, so to speak, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, especially now because so much has happened. Well, let's get your thoughts just real quick. This was our main topic of our show tonight, but what are your thoughts on this like crazy supply shock that we've really seen across the ecosystem? Like, of course, the Pump.Tires things happen, which starts to burn Pulse. The ink inflation gets halved 2 times in a week-long span. And then all of a sudden, we got all these gigantic hex stakes for short and very long term, cutting the T-share rate down and the hex supply. And we're just seeing this crazy supply shock right now that I don't know that anybody saw coming. So I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on this stuff? This kind of happened out of nowhere.
Well, it was unexpected that it happened the way it did. I mean, in classic Richard, right? We all think we know what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, boom, he just comes out of nowhere. And again, I say Richard, but I should say classic Hex. Wow, what I'm seeing is the way being paved for success, and it was basically a reset and a halvening, and everything is set for monster gains for the system to continue to be healthy, continue to grow and thrive, more foundation being laid. You know, and I know that some people kind of experience pain when these things happen, or an appearance of pain. But you know, Richard knows, he's known and has calculated, you know, how to you know, move and build this thing in this atmosphere in a way that I think has been nothing but healthy, nothing but solid, nothing but a great foundation. And he's really paving the way. And I don't know if you guys saw, but like literally while I was waiting to come on stream with you guys, those 350 billion just came out and just unstaked. That supply is back in the hands of the OA. With, I mean, I think every 100 is like 60 million hex that were reminted back into the OA wallet.
Yeah.
So
seven days, right?
Yeah, 7 days. So now it's be interesting to see what happens with that supply, or what happens next, or if anything, nothing at all happens, and it just, you know, kind of just sits there. But you know, it's a nice setup. I really like the setup. I like the atmosphere of the United States and regulatory and where that's all going. So it just looks like a real nice setup right now. And of course, with the whole crypto market getting ready to move and moving, it really sets things up for nice moves for the Hex ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was necessary to stop the rolling dumpers that we just couldn't sustain right now. I mean, once we get a few more people in here, once the market starts to pop off a little bit, the new users will come in. We'll be able to sustain some of that inflation, but it was just constantly bash it every time. It would go up a little and bash it right back down. So I'm glad it happened. Second time the OA has stepped in to monitor the ecosystem and do the right thing.
And we've seen that, you know, happen all the way through. And again, just benevolent whale activity, benevolent, you know, OA activity. You know, we saw it early on in the adoption amplifier. I mean, really early on, when there was a kind of a glitchy kind of arbitrage situation where people were, you know, bringing adoption amplifier hex into the system and throwing it on Uniswap and arbitraging it down. And that was, you know, then we saw the benevolence whales jump in and liquid, you know, change the liquidity so they couldn't move it like they were, and kind of stop that. We also saw, you know, the adoption amplifier and whales come in and save the adoption amplifier days from being, you know, overrun by people doing that and arbitraging. So it's always been benevolent activities from the whale wallets, the OA wallet, to continue to keep the system healthy. And that should be a hint and a half for everybody that, you know, and I'm not saying within the ecosystem here. I mean, we all know, we all know what's going on, but outside the whole crypto space, with the narrative of, you know, Richard Hart is doing no good for crypto, when in all actuality, if you really look at what he's done, well, and again, I can't say he, but the system itself and the whales and the people within it, whether it be Richard or other whales or whatnot, have always worked to try and keep the system healthy and keep it going in the right direction. There's never been a rug pull or a scam or a money grab here from anyone outside of the system. You know, obviously we have our people that are dumping and whatnot, but the big moves have only been actually making the system healthier and building a more solid foundation all along the way.
For sure.
Yeah. So we're at about 8 o'clock. Can you break down what's going on with PulseChain Tour for us? Because we know you guys got dates coming up, obviously. And I mean, it just continues to astonish me. Like, no other ecosystem in crypto has this kind of organic thing going on. I mean, like, all these other chains, we're seeing more now, like Barachain or whatever the hell it is, another L2 that just came out that's like, you know, heavily VC backed, people dumping on your heads. We don't even know who these people are. And it's, you know, one cycle, it's gone, you know. And just the fact that we have this crazy grassroots, you know, really spearheaded by you going out there in real life and meeting with people is just awesome. So yeah, let us know what we got coming up here.
Yeah. So, you nailed it by saying organic. And I want to emphasize that, we've never asked permission from Richard. We've never had any help from Richard. He's never contracted us to do any of these things. He's never even really, just recently he said, don't go to conferences.
Yeah, exactly.
And so really, other than giving us the tools to put a community behind a good crypto ecosystem, that's really all that Richard has done for us. This is completely our effort, and what I'm trying to do and what I've always tried to do is to give the community the ability to grow and thrive and become stronger. And I may not be the best streamer. May not be the guy that understands the charts and all the technology, but I do know how to put people together and how to build communities. And that's the one thing that I think is my strength, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Ewok used to come into our streams early on, and now look at him. I've always said that you give people the ability to get out there and do things, and they're going to, and there's going to be better streamers than me and Discord Syndicate and all that come out, and you guys have proven that. Everybody has proven that they've built strong community by just giving them the ability to get up there and start speaking and being smarter and better in crypto than everybody else has been. This community is the smartest crypto community out there, period, end of story. It's the most organic crypto community, period, end of story. And that's because we went and did these things. We seeked out the knowledge. We seeked out everything we can know about what Richard did. We believed in what he did. We knew that he was going to put something good out. He was going to bring true DeFi to the table, and we were going to be the ones that went out and marketed it. And I put out a tweet either this morning or yesterday about that. I said, it's Richard gave us the tools to be a community that can get behind what he's done without fail, without worrying about a scam, a rug pull, or being accused of promoting something wrong. The only thing that we've ever been accused of is following a guy that wears a Gucci suit. That's literally all they've got on us. Like, you guys just believe in a charismatic leader that wears a Gucci suit. And it's like, okay, but have you listened to what we're saying? Have you listened to what we're teaching? Have you seen what we've brought to the table? Richard has brought true DeFi to the table, and us, the community, have rallied behind it. And I think that really what we should be doing now, more so than ever, the tech be damned. Let's talk about what Richard talked about, what we were sacrificing for. We were sacrificing for our freedoms. We were sacrificing for crypto to actually go out and change the world and help the world, which is what it was supposed to always have done. But they've lost their way. The crypto bros have lost their way. They sold out. They sold you guys out. Your Bitcoin is gone. It now belongs to the entities that they were trying to fight against. BlackRock now owns your Bitcoin, guys. That's what happened. Like, you've literally sold out, and they're continuing to this day to cheer that on like it's something special, like it's something good. And it's not. It's not why we're into this. We're into this for our freedoms so that we can pass this along to the rest of the world and try and fix it and make finance a better place. And if we need to focus on that as a community, we need to focus on our freedoms and what this really means, what real DeFi means. And, so by bringing the community together and us all meeting in one place, shaking hands, high fives, hugs, the whole deal, getting to know each other, that's what's going to build a strong community. It's not all this 2D stuff that's always going on. You've got to get people together and trusting one another and seeing in each other's eyes what's really going on. We have to tell the stories about who we all are and why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing and why we believe in what Richard Hart has done. And so that's why I put these events together. That's why I think they're important. That's why during the whole bear market, I traveled the world. I traveled the country on my dime so that we can continue to build and grow even when things were down, because I knew that when the bull comes, if we weren't prepared, if we weren't going in the right direction, if we weren't building camaraderie and a movement and a revolution, that we were going to just get stuck in the number go up, people pump and dump, get into the next cycle, and we may not have DeFi the next time around because the centralized agencies are coming. They're coming for it. They're putting all these guys, behind bars. They're taking over crypto. All of your libertarian guys are disappearing and going away. And their talks about freedom have disappeared, and it's all about green candles. And we need to get back to the real narrative of what crypto is, and go back to the Satoshi white paper and why he started doing this thing in the first place. And that's us. That's the organic community, is the ones who are supposed to be doing this, not the furus and the gurus and the paid guys, but us, the real community that's out here, making it happen on our own without asking permission from anybody, without having to worry about any legal actions against us, because we're really just saying, hey, we're talking about freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom to do with our money what we want to do with it. And who's gonna put anybody in jail for actually doing that kind of stuff, right? We're not robbing or stealing from anybody. We're trying to bring decent products and freedoms to the world. And that's what the tour is about, is bringing people together so that we can get stronger, unite, and start a revolution.
Very nice.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And I think that you make like such a great point about like the gurus, the furus, number go up and everything. People somewhere along, especially this cycle. And I'm not going to be somebody that shits on memes. I mean, we've talked about memes on here. I'm sure everybody has a bag of some meme somewhere in this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you're right. Like we've seen a lot of the charts, the pump and dumps and stuff like that. Like, and I think some of these, maybe the young bucks that are getting into crypto now, trying to just earn a quick buck on a meme coin or something like that, like they are forgetting some of those libertarian principles and things like that you've said. And I think it's really good that you bring that up, because we need to get back to that. And PulseChain is that. PulseChain is going to have the staying power to be here multiple cycles to reflect those values, I think,
Yeah, exactly. And that's all of us, and everything you guys are doing. Anything that we could do to strengthen this community, bring everybody together, and show that there's a movement behind it. And it's all of our stories. It's the single mom story. It's the hardworking blue collar worker guy story. It's the guy that has made it in life, but he has no retirement. He's going to have to work till the end of his days to survive and into his 80s. It's all of our stories that are going to speak and resonate with the rest of the world and bring them into crypto. Because if we don't let the regular folk see that this is for them, and that it's not some, young, guy, basement dweller eating Hot Pockets in his mom's basement.
There's nothing wrong with Hot Pockets now. Let's not piss off Hot Pockets.
A Lambo and chicks, It's really about our freedoms and the freedom to actually do well in the world. And money doesn't make you happy, but money buys you options. Options buy you freedom. Freedom makes you happy. And that's the kind of message that we got to get out there. That's what crypto really is. Like the modest gains, the modest gains that this ecosystem gives you is well enough. You don't need to have those 1,000x gains, 10,000x gains. They're nice, they happen, but let's talk about freedoms and good products that do things that can actually be better than a 401k, which are now 104ks. That can be better than Social Security. These are the things that we need to be explaining to the 40, 50 something year olds out there that don't have any hope, that don't understand crypto, that are afraid of it, and we've got what ails everybody, and we've got to get that message out, and we got to get stronger as a community. And so, that's why the events.
Amen. Well, can you tell us? Oh, go ahead, Ewok. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So this next one coming up, let's get into that. Tell us what's happening with it, and kind of go through, I guess, the itinerary a little bit.
Yeah, so the Pulse 369 event is obviously it's March 6th through the 9th, therefore 369. We're going to be starting on the 6th with a big party, splash off with DJ, laser party, the whole thing, drinks on us, kind of open bar, and just have a big get together and everybody get to know one another. And then on the 7th and the 8th, Friday and Saturday, in Vegas, we're going to be having all the speakers, all the people that if you look down there, Crypto Coffee, Crispy Man's going to be there, DCC, you name it. The lineup is yes, it's the people you see online, but you're going to get to meet them. You're going to get to talk to them. You're going to get to see who they really are. The Project Pi guys. We've got legal experts, our legal eagle showing up in there, and he's going to be on panels. So you're going to get to hear us, have conversations about the legal issues and stuff that are going on in crypto. And I'm really excited that my friend Zach Conine, the treasurer of Nevada, is going to be there. A politician, the guys that everybody hates. You get to meet him. You get face to face and talk to him about, what does he think about DeFi? What does he think about crypto? What is he really doing out there? What does the government look like? This is a guy that sits down with all the treasurers in the country, sits down with senators and congressmen and speaks crypto to them. And he's leaned into us, into DeFi. He wants to know more about what we're doing, what's going on here in the Hex ecosystem. And so he's going to speak there. So you'll be able to talk and listen to a real politician that everybody, thinks is inaccessible, but no, he's going to be there speaking. So that's going to be the 8th and the 9th, or the 7th and the 8th. And then on the 9th, we're going to have something really special. And if you guys know Crypto Culture, Casey, who also known as Black Hexagon, she's got this golf event that she's put on, and it's really turning into a big success. The last one that we had was there was Crypto Prize, and 4 golfers that were there that were no coiners, that knew nothing about crypto, won prizes. So they sat down, they had to make wallets, they had to get their crypto prize, and then they became Hexagons. So she was like, wow, that was a great onboarding tool. Let's blow this thing up and make it bigger. And so, we talked to some of the sponsors, the people, the projects that wanted to get involved, Axis and SolidX and Liquid Loans, a lot of these other projects, and they put coins into this. And now there's a prize that at one point it was over $50,000. Now with the dip that we've seen in some of the coins here, it's dropped. But who knows what it might be. We've got more coins still coming in from some of the other sponsors. So who knows if we get a little pump here and rising tide raises all ships, the whole ecosystem pumps up a little bit. We might have it's already the biggest crypto prize of any golf tournament ever. So it's going to be interesting to see where it ends up. But something else that Casey did when she went to Vegas yesterday, she's been there for the last couple of days, making sure that everything was set up at the golf course and how they were promoting and what was going on. And lo and behold, they've actually started promoting to a lot of the golfers, and they're excited about getting there. And these are non-crypto folk, non-Hex ecosystem, of course, no coiners, and they're excited about it. They want to be part of it. So what she did is she told the staff members that, hey, if you guys help us out here, we'll set up a little contest. So we're going to be giving incentives to the staff at Desert Pines Golf Club, and we're going to give it to them, incentivize them in Pulse, and based on how many locals they could bring in to the golf event. So we're asking the community to come in and help out. And I'm saying, hey, I'm not asking for big donations of anybody, but $10 worth of Pulse, take it to the PulseChainTour.com website. There's a wallet there. Throw a few bucks worth of Pulse in there so that we can incentivize all of the people on the golf course to go out there and get these golfers to come in and pump up the event. So anybody wants to donate, feel free. Go to PulseChainTour.com. Go to the donated address there. Put a few bucks worth of Pulse in. I'm not asking anybody to go out of their way and put anything crazy in there. just a few bucks, and let's incentivize them to get our golf event pumped up, and see if we can start turning this into an onboarding tool. And golfers, they got time and money, so let's get them involved. Those are kind of people we want, So so that's what's going on, man. And it's going to be a bigger success because of that. We're going to onboard new people. And again, we're going to strengthen the community engagement and adoption. And that's what this is really all about, is bringing people together and becoming stronger than just a 2D, marketing plan where we're all just kind of speaking on, chat rooms and Zoom calls and YouTube, that we're all really like becoming stronger. I mean, there's from our events, there's been businesses set up. There's been, relationships and marriages and children that have come out of this thing already. So it's working, man. It's working. And everybody loves Vegas. It's easy to get to Vegas. We've made this thing affordable. There's no money being made here. I know that in the past, some people have come in and tried to grift our community to make these big, events and whatnot. But let's face it, it's just us. It's just us. It's the people you see on YouTube anyway all the time. It doesn't need to be some crazy, outlandish $4,000 or $5,000, event for just to come out and have dinner with somebody. It's nothing like that. This is a real valuable event. Casey always puts value into it. You're going to get more out of it than you put into it. I promise you that. So other than what's gone on in the past, we're bringing value to the community. We know that it's just us, but it's about bringing us all together and making us stronger.
Yeah, for sure. So the Flamingo is home base. Most people staying there, or are there there's the people that are mostly staying at other places like the Caesars across the street or whatever?
Yeah. So Caesars, the Link, the Flamingo, and the Conrad.
Conrad.
It's doggone it. I'll get a text in a minute here saying it's this, but yeah, it's there's a few hotels right there.
MGM's right there, I believe, across the.
That's a little down the street a little bit, but but all those hotels there, we've got, there's block rates there for people. I think all of the discounts are over with as far as that goes for the hotels, but there's still tickets available. There's still room for everybody to show up and come and join us.
Awesome.
Very cool. Yeah, I can vouch for Casey. She definitely knows how to put on events and keep everybody in line. I was there when she did the cruise and ran pretty smoothly. So
yeah, those cruises were fun. We did it. We had she makes sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Everybody gets their value. I've never seen her miss a ticket, miss a meal. Everybody's always gotten taken care of. She's on top of it. We couldn't ask for a better advocate for building these events. And that's why, I'm confident that, my goal is to fill stadiums. I want to fill stadiums with people coming together like this. And what better place than maybe the Sphere in Vegas? Let's shoot for that goal to put, a bunch of Hexicans in the Sphere, and bring no coiners in and teach people about DeFi and awesome. bring bigger guests and whatnot. So, that's what I want to see. I want to see us all coming together and becoming stronger and really creating a movement, and again, nothing against memes and all those things. I think all these things, the outrage marketing, all these things were necessary to grab attention and get us where we're at. And I know that it's been tough for all of us to deal with the FUD, to deal with being called scammers, to deal with the 3-letter agencies coming after all of us, and watching them bash Richard, somebody that we're trying to pass his message along by saying, hey, look, guys, he really did something good here. And you guys are calling us cults, and you guys are calling us, suckers to a charismatic leader in a Gucci suit. It's like, no, you guys are missing the meat and potatoes of what's going on here. and you're looking at the surface. The surface is to grab your attention, not to grab you and punch you in the mouth and you get in a fight with us. It's here to show you that, hey, just peel back a couple of these layers and look what's underneath the hood here, and you'll be impressed. Yeah. And I've noticed that. I've been to a lot of crypto events, Bitcoin events, and a lot of them I just kind of like sit in the back. Oh, I lost my light. Sit in the back, and I sit in the back and kind of watch them and sheepishly kind of work my way in until people start asking me, who you are, what are you doing, or hey, I know you're one of those Hex guys, and then boom, it happens, and they're like, well, that your MLM is gonna, and I'm like, no, you guys don't understand. It's not MLM. And that your Richard's gonna go to prison, and I'm like, no, I went to the hearing. I've been subpoenaed myself in this hearing, in these investigations. I know what's going on. Listen to me. Let me teach you something. Oh, no. It's this and it's that. And I think that a lot of the messaging has come from people who are afraid of Richard and what we've done. Yep. Nobody's ever built a community like we have. Nobody's ever built cryptos like Richard has, and they're afraid of it. And I understand and I get it, but don't be afraid. Listen to us and let us teach you. Let us show you what this is really all about. And just take a minute, breathe, relax, and stop with all of what you think Hex is, and let us show you what it is, because it is difficult and intricate, but it is simple, really, when it comes down to it. It's tools that the world has already always known, and I think that's what's going to resonate with those 40, 50-something-year-olds, is that this is no different than like a certificate of deposit or a high interest bearing pension plan or savings account. It's just like mining. It's just simplified and put in different technology, and let us show you how to utilize these tools so that it can benefit you, and you can really be using DeFi versus having to go out there and risk being in CeFi, which is where the whole world is gone, man. I mean, our whole crypto world is all about CeFi now. They want to bow down to and applaud BlackRock, and that's like insane to me.
Opposite of why we're here in the first place, right?
Yeah, in 2014, 15, when I read the Satoshi white paper, I got a whole new image and understanding of what crypto was supposed to be, and they've sold that idealism out. They've gotten rid of it, and they've done it acting like they're the ones being benevolent to crypto, like they're the ones being honoring crypto, and they're not. They've totally sold out to the centralized exchanges, to the mining pools, to bad technology, to BlackRock. There are I don't even want to say his name, but there are actually crypto developers from the beginning days that are in supposed cypherpunk generation guys that are rooting for Richard to go to prison.
Right.
When all of them have gone to prison. Like, I remember them all wearing orange jumpsuits. I didn't see Richard in an orange jumpsuit, And when I was at the hearing, it didn't sound like they were looking to put him in one. I know the three of their agencies were, but it didn't sound like the judge was buying it to me. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how the tables turn. Yeah. And when those people need help, we'll see who they come calling to. Yeah. I know what you're saying, but, hey, this is terrific, man. I mean, RG3, I mean, you guys, all the credit in the world to you, like really getting work done on the ground. Like you said, going out, shaking babies, kissing hands, whatever you want to say. But yeah, actually out there meeting people, and it's awesome. And again, instilling those libertarian freedom ideals and everybody, instead of just number go up. Yeah. So we appreciate it. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts or anything?
No, man, I just, I appreciate you guys being out there and fighting too. Thanks for the praise. Thanks for the kind words. But, I don't feel I deserve it. I feel that, all of you guys who've picked up the torch and moved forward with it, are equally as important and done the work yourselves. You know, it's not easy to get up here in the face of everybody, the agencies, our families. And come on, we just went through a 3-year bear market. I know none of your friends and none of your family that got in at 20, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 cents are being kind to you or singing your praises. You know, the whole crypto space has been laughing at us and busting on us. You know, we've got or developers and founders of stuff out there that are still bad mouthing us. And it's been tough, but you guys have done it. You know, this community has done it. We have faced the fire. We have been forged in it. And there is nothing that can stop us now. They are absolutely terrified of this community. They're absolutely terrified of green candles from Richard's project. They're absolutely terrified of what he has done. And eventually they will come. They will show up. They cannot beat us. They can't, because we are on the right side of history. We have done all the right things. This is organic. They have nothing on us. Nobody has paid us to shill anything. We are doing this because out of the kindness of our own hearts, our wallets, everything. You name. Oops. Hold on a second, guys. This thing. Hold on. Let's see if it lets me. Oh man, I don't know what happens to this thing, but every once in a while it does this.
That's all right.
It's all right.
You can still hear you. We can still hear you.
Yeah. So it's we're on the right side of history. That's it. Period. End of story. And if we keep moving forward, we will win. We will win.
Beautiful. All right. BB, you there? All right. I think he wanted to wrap it up. I know he's got to get going. And
yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know what's happened either. You can still hear me though, right?
I can still hear you. Yeah, you're good. I was just waiting for Broke Boy to come in and end it, but he might not. He might have had to step away. So, all right, Captain, hang out in the green room for a second. I wanted to ask you something, but I'm gonna go ahead and close this down. Thanks everybody for showing up, and the comment section was great tonight. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Throw a like in there if you would, and we'll catch you next week.
Right on. Thanks, Ewok. You're one of the good ones, man. Appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, buddy.